Welcome to episode 5 of the JOBCAST, the employment support team's new podcast aimed at helping you to build the skills and confidence to find work. I'm Dan.
I'm Francesca, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about the PATH project. So PATH is a newly EU-funded project which will enable families, employers and healthcare professionals to prevent, recognise and successfully manage mild and moderate perinatal mental health issues. PATH will enable parents, the wider family, employers and healthcare professionals to find support and information to help them with their parenting journey. PATH also aims to promote positive parenting experiences and enable parents to feel confident in seeking self-help or professional support, leading to happier and healthier families.
So, as you can hear, PATH is a really wide-reaching project. So it aims to help new and expectant parents in 3 key ways. So reaching parents directly with the digital and community initiatives, including a new support hub, which has actually gone live this week. It'll also look at reaching healthcare professionals. So we'll be producing resources and training to actually increase healthcare professionals' confidence in recognising perinatal mental illness and actually then being able to provide appropriate care. And the final thing, which is kind of our big part being the employment support team, is that we're looking at reaching employers with resources to help them better support maternity and paternity leave and parents' return to work, and also just general well-being in the workplace. So, as I said, it's such a broad project. There's so much to it. What we're going to talk about, obviously, with this being an employment podcast, is the employment side of things. And we'll leave you to find out the other stuff on the PATH website, which we'll put links for in the descriptions. So what we'll do now, we'll just kind of discuss the employment support team's involvement in PATH and kind of talk about our plans for the future with PATH and actually what support's available right now, both for families and for employers.
So yeah, I mean, I think, PATH is such an exciting project, and I've been working on it from the very start. Well, we both have actually, haven't we, Dan? So I think watching how the project has sort of progressed, and we started initially, so we say it's new, it's not really new. We've been, working on this for nearly 2 years now, but it's a 4-year funded project. And, I think now we're in a better position to be able to start helping people to move back into employment and training. And certainly for some families who have been affected by furlough, hopefully our support will be of use to you. So, I mean, I think the most important thing for us to remember is that when you're expecting a baby or when you've got a newborn, everything changes, and your confidence, everything, your confidence changes, your ability to, just be able to do what you were doing before changes. So for us, working with individuals, so parents and carers of people with perinatal mental health, for us to be able to enable them to feel more confident in moving into employment is really, one of our key elements. But also, I think also something that I'm really excited about is the potential work that we can be doing with the employers, and through all of the research and things that we did with the Institute of Health Visiting. And the article that they've written with the recommendations is really amazing, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, so it's a big thing that we've been doing actually, is having these employer recommendations that are actually shaping all of our work on the PATH project. So we did a big bit of work, me and my team, on actually researching what support was out there already for employers to actually help parents and family members experiencing perinatal mental health at work. And then actually through interviewing parents, interviewing employers, and from that we kind of came up with 10 recommendations, all around supporting just well-being in the workplace from a parental point of view. So obviously with PATH, the main focus is perinatal mental health. So that's defined as being from conception all the way to a year after giving birth. But actually what our recommendations do is they build on this time period, and actually it's not just people with young newly born children, but older children as well, and all of that kind of stuff. So the recommendations, they shape all of the training that we're going to be offering, they shape all of the resources that we're putting out there. And so with all of that in mind, employers can work towards becoming what we're calling a past parent friendly employer, to actually show parents who may be considering working in their organisation that actually they are a company that actually acknowledges well-being and mental health for parents. So it's a really exciting bit of work that we've been doing, and now that all of that's in place, we're now looking at kind of rolling all of that out. So we're in the process of developing some training for employers. So that kind of is around practical support that can be put in place, but also some of the emotional support as well, and equipping managers and colleagues as well to just have those conversations. One of the recommendations that we've actually suggested is just a culture of openness and compassion, and just having those conversations and making mental health something that's normal to be talked about. And that sits really nicely with the overall aim of PASS, which is just reducing stigma around perinatal mental illness. So so yeah, that's some exciting training that's on offer. We've also got some resources that are going to be going out on our hub. So that's things like a wellbeing plan, a maternity and paternity calendar, all things just to equip employers so that they're not kind of feeling their way along in the dark, but actually they're really confident in being able to support their staff.
Yeah, I think it's about enabling people to have conversations, useful conversations, and you know, I think it's really important that people don't make assumptions that as soon as you're pregnant it's all unicorns and rainbows and it's all happy, because actually it's okay to not have a happy day, and it's okay to feel anxious about things, but more importantly it's okay to talk about them. And I think, you know, well, we're recording this podcast today, and it's a mental health week, or there's certainly lots of stuff around talking about mental health this week, and so it seems quite fitting that we're having this podcast recorded this week, really. Something that we probably should have mentioned earlier on is that PATH is funded by 2C's Interreg funding, and so we are one partner of 15 partners across Europe. So we've got partners in the Netherlands, in France, in Belgium, and also across the UK as well. So we're all working together, and all learning from each other as well, which is really interesting because we've all got very different cultures within different countries, and different laws and regulations and things. So anyway, going back to the proper stuff that we should be talking about, but I think it's really important to just share that actually we're all learning from each other. But I think having those positive conversations in the workplace and having the time and the guidance to prepare is just invaluable, because I think if you're handing over your caseload, whatever your job might be, that's your work, that's your investment, and you're handing it over to somebody else, and there's already enough anxiety around being pregnant, and you know what's going to happen, how is it going to look. So the idea of then handing over your workload in a really nice controlled way, it's happening in a way that's going to benefit you as an individual and your well-being, but also the employer, because everything's planned, nothing's going to get dropped. That's really important, and that's what our aim is, really, to take the stress off everybody and to make it an easier process for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked a lot about people who are in work, their employers, but also something that is really exciting certainly from our team's point of view, because it's what we do, is actually that PASS will also support parents who aren't in work. So as we know, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, that mental health can be a barrier to employment, and it can be something that people can often struggle with. And it's the same thing with perinatal mental health. It's just a different kind of circumstance that someone's going through. So actually, we're really excited to be able to offer that support to people who are looking for work, but actually perinatal mental health may be presenting some barriers, and that's, you know, things around feelings of guilt about going back to work, you know, anxiety about things that may have changed, about leaving the baby at home, all of that kind of stuff. So that's something that, you know, as Francesca said, we're learning from our other project partners who are actually healthcare professionals around these things that people might be feeling that we might not have considered before. And so that's a service that we're developing in Southampton. So through employability training courses, and also through one-to-one support. So at the moment, that's all kind of virtual, but now we're sort of continuing down the roadmap. We're hopefully going to be able to offer some face-to-face support as well as restrictions ease. So so that's something that's going to be really cool to offer people. And it's not just mums. That's something that I'm really keen to mention as well, is that we can also support the family members, so dads, partners, and other family members, so siblings and grandparents, and anyone who's affected by perinatal mental health. That's another thing that, from working on the project, I've learned that it's not just the mother of the child who's affected, but also people who might be supporting her, and some of the strain that might have. So yeah, it's a really interesting project, but also really great that we can just expand that support that we currently offer.
Definitely, and you know, and I think also sort of picking up on the father's sort of point of view, we all know that fathers quite often get sort of forgotten and they get left behind in the whole process. Everybody tends to focus more on the mum and the baby, and you know, fathers sometimes feel sort of quite left out. They feel quite isolated. So the fact that we're able to expand the project to help them, I think is absolutely fantastic. And you know, I think from every project and every person we work with, we learn something new, and I'm really excited to see what we learn from working on one-to-one basis with clients through the PATH project. I think it'll be really interesting. But you know, it's not just fathers who are looking for work either. I mean, if there's fathers or partners who are maybe at risk of losing their jobs because of supporting their partner or wife, mother of the child, you know, if they're getting phone calls regularly or texts because there's a lot of anxiety at home, and there's things that they're needing to be called home for, then actually the employer might not really understand that. So in that case, you know, our role is very much around supporting the father, supporting the mum to put in different support mechanisms, seeing what else could be offered, but also supporting the dad, but then supporting the employer to understand and to maybe be a bit more flexible, you know, look at alternatives that might then kind of help the situation for everybody, really. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and it's now we're in the stage right now we're in the middle of the PATH launch campaign. So across the UK, all of our partners are talking about what they're going to be offering and directing people towards the PATH hub. So now that we're live, there's only going to be more stuff getting added. So definitely check out the social media links. It's at 2Cs PATH. And also check out the Path Hub. There's loads of useful information on there, and there's always going to be loads more stuff added to it. That's another really great thing about the project, is that we're always learning, we're always developing new tools to help people. So just keep checking back, really.
Definitely. I think also the other thing to just mention is that obviously we're working really closely with lots of different referral partners and things, but people can obviously self-refer. So, you know, as always, please feel free to reach out and to sort of have a chat with one of us, and we'll happily see how we can help. But we also have a path worker integrated within our Young Adults Employment Hub as well. So that's really exciting, and certainly moving forward, when we are able to open up our doors and welcome people in as and when they want to come in, rather than having to pre-book everything. It will be really wonderful, because it means that then we've got even more synergy and even more support that we can offer to parents of all ages. And I think that's what's really important to me, is that it's not seen as an adult, you know, sort of 20s service. It's across the board. We want to be reaching out to teenage parents, we want to be reaching out to all parents, because, you know, perinatal mental health isn't choosy about who it affects. It affects so many women, and, you know, it's about making sure that all the support is as available as it can be for everybody. But for us in Southampton, really helping people to feel more positive about returning to work or getting into work, because actually being a parent just builds on your skills, and it builds on your transferable skills. I know that lots of, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning wake ups and everything else, you might not feel like you have an awful lot to offer, but you really do. And, you know, it's invaluable to really remember about the skills that you do learn through being a parent.
Yeah, there's so much that can sort of be used. I mean, I know when I've worked with parents before, supporting them into work and trying to write a CV, and the first thing they'll say is, I've got nothing to put on there because I've been raising my family for 10 years. And well, that's just opened up a whole box of stuff to put on a CV. So it's yeah, it's a really cool thing. So.
It really is, definitely. And, you know, I think it's, we talked, you picked up on it a bit earlier, that it's not just, you know, being a parent and being classed as a parent doesn't stop at the end, you know, when the child's sort of 2 or 3. Actually, you know, I've got an older child, and I still have to juggle my workload. And I think that's the thing, isn't it, is employers need to be flexible enough to allow you to juggle your workload. And, you know, I'm really lucky that the Southampton City Council allows us to be flexible with our working hours. And, you know, I work with an awesome team which allows me to drop things, and, you know, kind of do the parent thing and then sort of switch back into work mode. And that is all possible with everybody. It's just a case of building up those skills and the confidence to do it as well, and saying, actually, no, I need to go and be a parent right now, and I'll be back. So yeah, it's all good. But I think if anybody's got any questions around employment or training or how they can do it as a parent, then they just need to reach out, because, you know, we can certainly help and link you in with other people if needs be.
Definitely. So yeah, so that's kind of the Path project in a nutshell, but it's really not worthy of a nutshell. It's such a big project, so definitely go and check it out, and, you know, really look at what's going on and what we're offering, and to kind of give you that introduction to that. Now we're going to hear from some of our past influencers who are just going to tell you a little bit more about the project. So I'm joined now by Mark and Sandra from the Path Project. Thank you so much for joining us. So it would be great just to hear a little bit about your your background and your kind of involvement with the PATH project. So Sandra, we'll start with you if that's okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Daniel, and it's good to speak to you as well, Mark. So I'm Sandra Igwe, and I am a mum. I'm a mum to two amazing girls, Zoe and Chloe, who is at the moment 5 and 3. I'm also the founder of the Motherhood Group, a social enterprise that I set up to support the Black maternal experience, so raising awareness to perinatal mental health and other issues surrounding pregnancy and postpartum challenges, to share the challenges, the highs, the lows, and also to develop and support mums in the ways that we can through events, workshops, doula and counselling support as well. I'm currently involved in the amazing PATH project to make sure that every single parent, every mother from different backgrounds, races are involved and know that there are services out there to support them and that you don't have to suffer in silence alone, which I did. So my personal experience is one of the main reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic and raising awareness, because I was a mum that had undiagnosed postnatal depression and I did not get any support, and I suffered in silence, and I was afraid and very much ashamed to speak out to my family, my friends, my community, and definitely whilst I was in employment as well, I was very afraid to be honest about my situation. So I think conversations like this are super important and definitely very much needed.
Amazing, thank you. And Mark, what about you?
Yeah, same Sandra, thanks for asking me to join today. And yeah, I'm all the parents. I'm known for fathers, but actually campaign for the mother baby unit in Wales, which has come back. So if you support all parents for their mental health, it has far better outcomes for the whole family and their child's development. So from a personal experience, like Sandra, I suffered in silence for years, and my wife Michelle had severe postnatal depression. We believe there was an overlap between birth trauma and PND. Obviously witnessed that trauma, nothing worse thinking your wife and baby's going to die in front of you, so it had a massive impact on my own mental health, caring, expecting me back in work in 2 weeks. I was home for 6 months caring for my wife. So there was a lot of reasons why I was depressed in the postnatal period, and also having an undiagnosed disorder called ADHD. Obviously I didn't know about, the lack of sleep, testosterone levels actually low in fathers. People don't know about it, I should say. So there's loads of reasons why fathers can suffer during this time too. And like I said, like Sandra said, I'm so pleased to be involved with the PATH campaign, which is going to highlight all parents as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, so thank you both for joining us. So it's some amazing work that you're both doing, sort of not just for PATH but across your own organisations and everything. But what it would be amazing to talk about today would be your experiences of employment and parenthood. So Sandra, I guess if you're happy to share, what was your experiences of employment?
Yeah, it was a mixture of experiences. Of course, I was pregnant when I was working in employment, and I was very much happy, excited to, be able to still work whilst having a baby growing inside of me. But I would definitely say that one of the major challenges that I found when I was in full-time employment and, was the return back to work. That was really hard. You go from growing a baby, and of course, as Mark mentioned, that birth trauma that I went through twice with 2 of my kids, having an experience when you're in, giving birth and having your labor experience, and you feel almost like you're not going to make it, and that your words are not necessarily taken seriously, and you're not really given the basic human rights that you expected and hoped you would get once giving birth. That's kind of gone out the window. So your reality is almost shattered. Then going back home and having to raise the child whilst battling with undiagnosed postnatal depression and not being able to speak about it. And I couldn't find any community groups that were targeting the issues that I felt were very much needed. So a lot of cultural factors that I think weren't really addressed as a new mum, a new Black British mum here in the UK, that didn't really understand, why people weren't really supporting me in the way that I wanted to. And then having to go back into work and people, congratulating you, telling you, well done for giving birth. How's the baby? You must be ecstatic, but I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm, struggling. I'm actually sad, and having to put on the facade and pretend like everything is okay whilst, working long hours. And not feeling like you want to, you know, be a burden to your employers, to say that actually I have to be home, you know, a bit early because my breast milk is leaking, and all these other practicalities that so many parents, mothers go through that haven't, unfortunately, employers, I don't think are that comfortable in creating that environment to have these open dialogues. I had to, for example, express my breast milk in the toilets whilst working, and I did that in secret because I didn't want to ask for a break every hour, every 2 hours, you know, asking for this. And that definitely added and aided to what I would say a decline in my mental health, was having to balance a dual status of being, you know, a mother, a new mum, and a full-time employee. And of course, you don't want to say, no, I'm not ready to go back into work, because you do want to work. You do want to go back into social normality. You want to speak to adults. You don't want to hear babies crying from morning to night forever. So there's an element of wanting to go back into work and wanting to integrate and, you know, have that, be the person you were before you had a child, but also you aren't the same person. You're different. You have a new, you know, a new responsibility and a new added pressure. Definitely a blessing as well. But of course, you know, these two statuses sometimes do conflict each other, and there's no safe space to kind of talk about it.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's really, really interesting to hear that kind of perspective from others who's experienced that. Yeah, it's something that we're kind of working on. So the employment support team's role in the past project is around sort of working with employers to kind of change some of those cultures. And one of our recommendations actually that we've come up with is around creating a culture of openness and compassion. And I think just that kind of cultural change of saying actually it's okay to talk about these things, and you know there's no stigma attached to it, and I think that that's an excellent starting point, isn't it, to having those conversations. Mark, what about you? What about your experiences of employment?
So yeah, my experience basically, I was off for 6 months, but I was self-employed. I was a sales rep at the time, you know, 16, 17 years ago. So luckily for me, my boss had an understanding about mental health, because his son had actually was in the armed forces and went through PTSD. So I think one thing that when I speak to helpers and midwives, the conversation always comes up where dad's always back in work in 2 weeks. So possibly this is a time where we should be, you know, explain to employers that fathers can witness trauma, you know, be affected, because if we don't, that can impact on the workplace as well. A lot of parents I've spoken to over the years, the father's been struggling for various reasons, and that has had an impact on the workplace. Unfortunately, I've had to give work and all sorts of things. So there's a cost element, but most importantly, you can actually save their lives, because as you know, the biggest killer in men under 50 is suicide, high risk in the perinatal period, which the research found. And because the fathers are not screened and supported, they go into mental health services after the postnatal period. So employers could possibly take some responsibility and look after the father as well. And maybe there'd be services within their organisation to get that talking therapies or whatever support they need as well.
Yeah. Yeah, again, that's a really interesting perspective of it as well. Is there stuff that, just off the top of your heads, like things that employers maybe could do to kind of facilitate some of this, or?
Sandra?
So I wasn't sure who you were. Yeah, so there was definitely a lot of work that employers can do to create a safe enough space for parents, mums and dads, pregnant people, birthing people, to share the issues that they're going through. I do remember there was a group that I joined at work for parents to speak about some of the practicalities, but it didn't really address the emotional element of it. So I think there should be a space for conversations around the emotional and mental element of being a parent whilst working for you know, their employers. So it's not just about, you know, your hours. What hours can you now do? Can it fit around your nursery runs? Are you physically and practically able to sit at a desk whilst having a massive bump? These are the things that they, you know, definitely did touch on. It was more so like a tick box exercise, but I did feel like it was missing the, you know, the personal, social and emotional element to it that makes, you know, a mother or a father feel, you know, valued, worthy, you know, like their thoughts and their emotions are important. And I do feel like if you do want mums and dads to feel comfortable at work whilst under employment, these conversations need to be had, and not in a formal way, definitely in an informal, relaxed, open, safe space.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we found from talking to a lot of parents as well, is that all of the practical stuff, physical support is there, but sometimes it's that emotional and mental support that's not necessarily covered. I think, yeah, that's definitely a really good point. And what about you, Mark? Is there anything that you...
Yeah, definitely. There's obviously the mental health first aid is out there now with employers, but it doesn't actually talk about paternal mental health. That's something I've been actually engaged with the mental health first aid, because it does mention about mums, but they don't understand about the fathers. And when employers can understand all the thoughts and feelings, you know, obviously like mums get, you know, dads got those feelings as well, sort of thing, you know, bonding, not good enough, all thoughts like we've just mentioned, and Sandra's just mentioned as well, you know. So like you said, it's employers, I feel, you know, if you have a basic, when they go back to work, you know, and they have that back to work report or meeting, I should say, maybe, you know, how after becoming a dad, possibly then those conversations can be happening with both of them at the same time, you know. So, but antenatal anxiety and depression, we've got to remember as well. So employers, you know, making sure that fathers, when obviously I'm speaking about fathers on my side, I know Sandra's talking about mums, you know, explain about, you know, we know about parental leave, you know, how much, and we know when you look at Scandinavia, especially UNICEF, those rich countries, you know, how much investment they put in the early years about parental leave for fathers as well. Yeah, we should be investing in that, and because it's not at the present, it's not feasible for fathers to actually take that time off with the mum as well, because it's not cost effective for the families. So if we can really invest like Scandinavian countries, I think that will have a really better outcome in the 1,001 critical days, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, I guess just as a final kind of thinking point, I think both of you have mentioned kind of, you know, after your experiences of becoming parents, you've kind of gone on and set up these kind of social enterprises. You've gone and campaigned for all of these things, which is amazing. And there's probably an obvious answer to the question I'm about to ask, but what was it that kind of inspired you to do that? Sandra, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so obviously, I always believe in turning your pain into purpose. And so definitely my birthing experience, my traumatic birthing experience, navigating my way through early motherhood with, you know, a newborn baby whilst going through stress, anxiety and depression, and not being able to speak about it or have what I would call a safe enough space to, you know, meet like-minded mums. I definitely knew that I had to create something more so for myself, and of course with helping myself, I've helped other people as well. Helping thousands of mums with the, you know, going through new motherhood and having that, you know, putting their emotions and their feelings first. I do think there's power in numbers, and so the more people that speak out about, you know, the issues that surround new mothers, new fathers, new parents, pregnant people, and how also I specialize in, of course, the race element too, because Black mothers are more likely, unfortunately, to have postnatal depression and the least likely to get support for it. And that's due to a number of factors like shame and stigma within our own community, and of course, how race plays a part in healthcare. But definitely in regards to employment, I think going back to work was really difficult because I had to almost pretend like everything is okay. But I think if you guys focus on having that open, raw, honest dialogue upon coming back into work, you know, not just how are you okay? Are you okay? Let's see pictures of the new baby, but more so, how are you feeling? How is your well-being? Are you getting enough sleep? These simple questions that can go so, you know, so far when it comes to a new parent going back into work.
Amazing, yeah. And Mark, what about you? What was your kind of inspiration?
Yeah, I wasn't the same person going back into sales in 2005 or 2006 because I couldn't take the pressures anymore where I could before Michelle, obviously we become parents, I should say. So I changed my career in 2006, went into the youth sector, and then unfortunately there was a lot of young suicide in Bridgend. They got into mental health, and then I still struggle in silence until obviously I had a breakthrough or breakdown. And obviously since 2010, I've been campaigning for parents, and yes, you know, with the Maternal Mental Health Alliance and all sorts of work over the years, and not just in the UK, overseas, you know, because it's not just a UK concern, it's a global concern as well, you know. So it's everyone, every parent, regardless where they come from, should be supported for their mental health. That's what my work's all about. Everyone should be entitled. I'm all about gender equality as well, you know. So everyone should be entitled to. But yeah, exactly. It comes from a lived experience, and like I said, speaking to the mums, you know, most of the mums used to phone me up and say, Mark, you know, I'm fine, or I've been supported, but my husband is struggling, he hasn't been supported, and it's actually impacted on my mental health and relationships. So it's like, you know, it's black and white, and I know Sandra would agree on this. We know it needs, you know, parents need the support, and employers should try to do their best to support the parents going back to work as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us and sharing these thoughts and ideas with us. It's been a really great conversation to have. And yes, so the Path project has now officially launched. And so, yeah, over the next couple of weeks and months, there'll be loads of new resources and information and training coming out for everyone to access to upskill around this. And Mark and Sandra will be doing a lot for us as well around getting the word out there and sharing everything that we're doing as a project. So yeah, make sure you search Path Perinatal on the internet and social media and keep up with what we're up to. So yeah, thank you. So that's all for today for this month's podcast. So just a reminder to go and check out the Path social media and the Path website, and all of the information about the support that we're offering in Southampton is available on Access Southampton. So next month is a month of community, and there's loads of stuff that's going to be taking place in June, including Volunteers Week, Loneliness Awareness Week. So we're going to be talking about all of that. We'll also be talking about the benefits of volunteering from an employment perspective and how voluntary work can actually help you to progress into paid work. And we're also going to talk about the support that we offer with our community-based projects in Southampton. So, as always, don't forget to send us your thoughts and comments. All of the contact details that you need are over on access-southampton.co.uk/JOBCAST. Thanks for listening.